There's a reason real pork tonkatsu ramen tastes the way it does, and almost nobody does it the right way at home. A good ramen starts with good broth, and a good broth starts with good bones. The first step is to rinse off all our bones. Hidden in the bottom of this bowl is actually a pig's foot, but I covered it because I thought maybe not everyone wants to see a pig's foot. But if you do, feel free to go ahead and try to find it. We're using this pig's foot because it's a really traditional and important part of getting that flavor for our ramen broth. The next step is to add all our bones to a large pot. Once again, I'm going to keep that pig foot real hidden in there. And once all your bones are in there, go ahead and cover them up with water. The reason we're doing this is to get a nice clean broth. And if you don't, your broth will end up being cloudy and dirty. Look at that. You can already see all the nastiness coming out of those bones. We're trying to get rid of all that and more. Once your bones are covered, turn on the heat and then bring it up to a boil and let it go for 10 minutes. This right here is what's inside all those bones. So if you didn't understand why we cleaned them before, now I think you will. Once we've been boiling for 10 minutes, I'm going to fish out all the bones because we want to give them one last rinse before we make our broth, just to make sure they're extra clean. And don't even try. I'm still not going to show you the pig's foot. With one last quick rinse in cold water, our bones are clean and ready. These are the aromatics we'll use to build the base of our broth. We've got onion, which I'm going to quarter and leave the skin on, garlic, which I'm going to cut in half just like this, then ginger, which I'm going to carefully cut right down the middle, and these green onions, which I'm going to leave whole. Now into our cleaned pot, I'll add in some oil as well as all our aromatics and stir until fragrant, 1 or 2 minutes. Wow, I love the smell of these. Just make sure as you stir these around that you do not char anything, because that will give you a dirty broth, which we do not want. After a few minutes of stirring, we'll add our bones. See if you can catch the pig's foot. I'm doing a good job hiding it. I bet none of you have seen it still. As well as a few white mushrooms. Here's how we start to build that umami flavor. And then cover this up once again with water. Bring it to a strong simmer. If you haven't seen what that looks like before, this is it. Let it cook for 12 hours with the lid slightly ajar, adding more water as needed to keep the bones covered and constantly skimming all the junk off the top. While our broth cooks, we're going to move on to make our chashu pork. This is that beautifully rolled barbecued Japanese pork that you may have seen before. And when you make it right, it's one of the best parts of ramen. This right here is pork belly. If you look from the side here, you'll see the cross section looks just like a piece of bacon, which is exactly what it is. The first thing we need to do is remove this skin on top. So I'll lay it skin side down on my cutting board. And then just like removing the skin from a fillet of fish, I'll go back and forth carefully with my knife until everything separates and it looks like this. Next, we'll take our pork belly and roll it up as tight as we possibly can. The tighter you can get it here, the cleaner it'll eventually be for those nice portions we cut for our ramen. I'm now going to take some butcher's twine and tie it as tightly as I can around the pork. And I will admit, it took me 2 or 3 times to get it right, but if you have someone there to help you, it'll probably make it a lot easier. As a next step, in a cast iron pan over medium-high, I'm going to get this deep golden brown. And the reason I'm not starting off with any oil or fat in the pan is because I've got plenty right here. I'm going to play a little game with myself here and see how perfectly golden brown I can get this thing on all sides. Having a weirdly shaped object like this is really great practice for getting a steak golden brown. If you can do this, you can definitely do a steak. The one complaint I always have about pork ramen is that they don't give you enough of this meat. I feel like you eat 1 or 2 bites of it and it's gone, and then you're left with this big bowl of ramen. So what I love about making it at home right now is that I could literally eat this entire thing in my bowl of ramen if I really wanted to. As we continue to cook this pork belly, we're going to render off a lot of that fat, which will continue to tighten up this roll of pork, giving us a cleaner cut of pork on our ramen. If you've ever had a bowl of ramen where the pork is too fatty, it means they didn't spend enough time rendering off the fat during this process. Once your pork is beautiful golden brown like this, go ahead and set it off to the side. For our chashu pork marinade, I'll add soy sauce, mirin, some sliced ginger, a few cloves of crushed garlic, then some green onion, and a little sugar. And once we brought this up to a simmer, add in your pork belly and let it cook with the lid slightly open for 2 hours, until it looks like this. Look at how bubbly and beautiful that looks. Now, all we do is turn off the heat, and once it's cooled down, we'll place it in the fridge overnight. With our pork done, we're going to move out to make our soft-boiled ramen egg. We'll add our eggs to some boiling water and cook them for 6.5 minutes exactly. And once that time has passed, carefully collect them all and transfer them to some ice-cold water. Once they've had time to cool down, we'll peel our eggs, and as you do this, be careful not to break them. We want to keep them whole. As you peel them, put them in a bowl off to the side because we're going to marinate them in just a moment. I feel like everyone has their own methods on how to peel eggs. Usually, I actually like to peel mine under running water like this because I feel like the water gets into the shell and separates things quickly. But at the end of the day, I feel like there's really no right or wrong answer, as long as you don't break the egg. To marinate our eggs, we'll go into our bowl with some sliced ginger, some crushed up kombu, which is a seaweed that gives tons of umami, 1 clove of crushed garlic, as well as some soy sauce, mirin, and sake. We'll cover this up, oops, I spilled a little there, and place this in the fridge overnight along with our pork. Before we make our ramen noodles, isn't that exciting that we're making our own noodles? Since some of the bones in here are uncovered, oh, you can't see the pig foot, I'm gonna pour some more water to top things off and cover it up again. And now, our noodles. Into a bowl with some flour, I'll add some baking soda and a pinch of salt, and then I'll mix this up until fully combined. Now, with some alkaline water, you can look up what that is on your own time, I'm going to slowly pour it into the flour, continuing to mix with those chopsticks until it begins to form this crumbly, shaggy dough. And once the dough eventually looks like this, go ahead and dump it out on your cutting board and get in there with your hands to mix it all together. We're going to knead this and treat this just like we would any normal pasta dough, with the goal being to develop that gluten and get us those nice, iconic, chewy ramen noodles. Once your dough eventually looks something like this, go ahead and shape it into a ball, then cover in plastic wrap and let it rest at room temperature for 30 minutes. While our dough is resting, check this out. If you look at our broth now, it's becoming milky. And what's happening is that all that collagen is breaking down from the bones and turning the broth nice and creamy. This is what I love so much about a tonkatsu broth. You get creaminess without actually adding any cream. It's amazing. Once our ramen dough has rested, we'll open it up and it should by now feel a bit more relaxed. It will still be harder and drier than most normal pastas because ramen dough is intentionally drier than normal pasta, but it will definitely be workable. Working with one piece at a time, I'll press out each piece of dough and then roll them through my pasta maker, adding just a touch of flour whenever needed to make sure things don't stick, but not too much or we'll dry it out. We're going to roll this out to level 6 on our pasta maker, and once I've finished each sheet, I'll flour it and set it off to the side while I repeat the same process with the others. Just wait until you see when it gets rolled into the actual ramen noodle shape. That is one of my favorite things to watch in the kitchen. Once all our sheets are made, we'll switch out the attachments, and like I said, this is one of my favorite parts. These are beautiful homemade ramen noodles. It's definitely extra effort and an extra mess in your kitchen to make them yourself, but I think it is so incredibly worth it. I mean, I just gotta do it. I had to do it. Okay, let's focus. Cut your noodles into nice portions. You should be able to eyeball that and measure them out on your own. This is another cool part about making them at home is that you can make them as long or as short as you want. Remember also as you're making these noodles to keep flouring them because they will stick together if you don't flour them. These noodles, especially because they're fresh, will cook really fast, so we'll set them aside until right before we're ready to make our ramen. When your ramen broth is done, turn off your heat, and by now you should have a creamy, milky looking broth, even though we never added any cream. We're going to strain this out now. Just to make it easier, I'm going to take out all the bones, and I don't have to worry about hiding that pig's foot anymore because everything's dissolved and broken apart. Carefully strain this out, mixing as needed if it needs any extra help pushing that liquid through the strainer. And this next step here is optional and not traditional, but I love miso, and now is the time to add it. We add miso off the heat because high heat will kill the flavor. I'm going to let this cool off uncovered and then refrigerate it until I'm ready to use it. We've done all the hard work, so just a few steps left. All of these steps are basically to finish things off and get them ready for plating the ramen. For starters, I'll cut the string off the pork. Funny story, in one of my biggest challenges ever in MasterChef, I left the string on the lamb. I tied it around the lamb to try to make the lamb look really nice, and then I left it on there and they tried to bite it and there was string. It was really awkward. And once that string is off, we're going to cut this into nice thin slices. Ooh, yeah. This is some of the best smelling pork you're ever going to be around. Now for the fun part.